The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind you that the Chinese Communist Party is no longer an economic adversary. They're an enemy. And they've been very creative in the way they've embedded themselves into the university systems in this country. This rule gives us a vote on kicking them the rest of the way out of this country. And I think, Mr. Speaker, that that's going to pass in a very bipartisan manner. So with all the annex and yelling and screaming and pointing the fingers, I just want to remind you there's a very serious piece of legislation to deal with the Chinese Communist Party in this rule that I believe will pass in very much a bipartisan manner. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
And reserves. The gentlewoman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, if we defeat the previous question, I will offer an amendment to the rule to bring up H.R. 2753, the Hands-Off Medicaid and SNAP Act, which will prevent the Republican budget from cutting Medicaid or SNAP benefits. Mr. Speaker, this week the House is voting to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. I'm not joking. This is what House Republicans are spending their time doing publicly. But privately, behind closed doors, according to reports, Republican leadership is meeting with vulnerable moderate Republicans to try to sell them on trading devastating cuts to Medicaid for tax cuts for billionaires. Under their plan, they have to cut $880 billion from Medicaid and $230 billion from food assistance just to make the math work for their disastrous reconciliation bill. Mr. Speaker, what's worse is they continue to argue that they aren't doing that. But the math doesn't lie. They can't reach the levels of billionaire tax cuts they want without gutting vital programs like Medicaid and SNAP, programs that the most vulnerable in our country rely upon. Republicans are publicly claiming that they won't make those cuts, so today I'll give them a chance to prove that to the American people by putting their money where their mouths are and voting to ensure those devastating cuts can't move forward in this House. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record, along with any extraneous material, immediately prior to the vote on the previous question. Thank you. So I will urge a no vote on the previous question, and I'll reserve my time.